The sound the CIA doesn't want you to know about. I bet it's like Pippa screaming or something. Nobody can know about that. That means that the world's gonna end. Alright, let's watch it.
There's a sound that the CIA doesn't want you to know exists. We've obtained recently declassified whistleblower documents that allege that the CIA has been lying to Congress and the President of the United States to hide the sound. The allegations claim that the CIA suppressed witnesses and created a misinformation campaign against the US public.
The whole intelligence community of the United States has publicly denied this ever happening.
If you hear the sound, it'll change the way your brain works.
It changes your life. It turns it upside down.
Since 2014, there have been—
Wait. Hold on. Conspiracy theory. It's the sound that's making people go crazy and psychotic. Like let me hear the sound. Yeah, I want to hear it. I want to go crazy. I want to go bananas. Yeah, the brown note. Maybe it makes you shit yourself. You don't know. Maybe one of the VTubers, one of the most popular VTubers in the world, does it and nobody knows about it and it makes people go crazy. That would be sick.
In over 1,500 reported cases of this sound.
Wow.
The sound has claimed victims on every continent besides Antarctica. The FBI, the DoD, and the CIA have dedicated millions of dollars in countless investigations to try to figure out where this sound is coming from. And supposedly, nobody knows.
What you all are saying is there's a government cover-up?
The public statements that the executive branch is making is inconsistent with the classified record.
Many months ago, I decided to look into it. And what I found was a cryptic maze, a story that the media got wrong, and then right, and then wrong, over and over again. This is a story about government cover-ups, whistleblowers, top secret documents, Cold War era technology.
Well, we're gonna hear about this in like 50 years when we're all like in our retirement homes, like fucking rocking back and forth and be like, yeah, remember them times when everybody went a little bit crazy? It's like, yeah, I bet it's someone fucking blasting some sound we can't hear. It's like, I knew it, man. I fucking knew it. John F. Kennedy, he was shot by some crazy lunatic by the government.
Can you give us some details about how high this goes in our government?
I've been knee deep in countless academic articles, clinical studies, and official press briefings. I talked to the experts, advisors for DARPA, the DoD, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
I had been contacted by some colleagues from the Department of State. They said, we have a set of cases we'd like you to take a look at.
This story was
Chat,
swept
we're on
under
the
the
list
rug,
right now, by the way.
and the case was closed too early. This is the story of Havana syndrome.
The Biden administration is under pressure from Congress to investigate a growing number of mysterious attacks.
It's called Havana syndrome.
Havana syndrome.
Havana syndrome.
The bizarre illnesses reported over the years.
But no clear source of it all.
These debilitating medical ailments.
The overwhelming majority of evidence is hidden behind classified walls.
I have to be careful what I say here. So let me say this. I know where the bodies are buried. I know the cabinets to look in, the questions to ask, and the people to subpoena. Give me 20 minutes and a skip.
Chat, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna give my 2 cents before like we get into like the actual info. I think that the shit happening that came out was probably just like an accident or something. Yeah, it's probably an accident. They didn't mean for it to like happen to civilians, and now they're trying to cover it up and like, you know, trying to make it as vague as possible. It's all BS. No, it's not BS. I don't think it's BS. Yeah, they're like either testing it or it was an accident.
And I'll convince all
Public
of you.
testing, yeah. Sounding. That's what
All right.
Tershi talks about.
Mysterious sound. Where do I start? In the fall of 2016, workers at the U.S. Embassy in Havana started sending reports up the chain of command. Some of them were at home, some of them were at a hotel room. It happened during the day, and it happened during the night. But all of them heard a sound. An intense, high-pitched, focused noise coming from—
And specifically in an embassy? I could believe it. I can definitely believe it. It was targeted.
From a specific direction. If they walk away, they don't hear it. But if they walk back, they do. Here's what the sound does. Pressure, first in the head and then in the body. It sharpens, becoming unbearable. Their vision becomes blurry. The world starts spinning and their balance falters. Lights starting to hurt. And then they collapse. They wake up and go back to normal life. Though the sound is gone, their symptoms start to get worse. Fatigue.
It's called getting old. It's called getting old. Yeah, when you're old, your body just breaks. And then you go back to normal for a couple of days.
Fatigue, chronic headaches, vision problems, and balance issues. They can't concentrate. They can't work. They have a hard time sleeping. Their memory isn't the same, both long and short term. It's all jumbled. Time itself becomes confusing. What?
Supersonic weapons.
The CIA, FBI, and State Department all agree to keep the incidents in Havana highly confidential. Internally, it causes a mess, a big one, a geopolitical tension level of mess.
2016. That's, I think, that's when the first VTubers started like appearing, sort of like, you know, like getting like the idea of a VTuber became a thing. Yeah, like 2016 and then 2019, 2020. Yeah. I think it's VTubers, man.
The US government removes a large amount of staff from the Cuban embassy, then expels some Cuban diplomats from DC. After, they issue travel restrictions. It's a big deal, but at this point, it's all happening behind closed doors. The big question, of course, is what is this? The State Department reaches out to the world's leading experts who secretly spend months reviewing the victims' medical data, brain scans, environmental factors, living quarters, everything. They were told
they all were watching VTubers.
Told very specifically, look for a cause, but don't try to figure out who's behind it. 9 months after the sound claimed its first victims, US intelligence agencies are still keeping all of this from the public. Until August 2017, the story breaks to the masses.
Reads like a Cold War spy novel. There's new concerns about the health and safety of US diplomats and government workers in Havana.
Anonymous US officials leaked to the Associated Press. The sound comes from an advanced device that operated outside the range of audible sound, sending the State Department.
There's no coincidence that it's in the US embassy in Cuba. Like,
Scrambling.
2016, you don't know what this incident is? The U.S. government is investigating this. I'm not going to get into it. We don't have any definitive answers about the source or the cause of what we consider to be incidents.
What? I thought it was a device. Wasn't it confirmed? Someone's not telling the truth. Either the
someone fucked up.
Anonymous source or the State Department. But these do not match up.
U.S. doctors who evaluated American and Canadian diplomats working in Havana diagnosed them with conditions as serious as mild traumatic brain injury and likely damage to their central nervous systems.
More sources come forward, and the contradictions grow.
Have you anything further to suggest, quote,
confirm,
brain damage?
I can't confirm any of that.
Can you say whether or not the attacks are ongoing still?
Hold on. When was the first incident of Havana syndrome? 2016. Kizuna AI debut. November 29th, 2016. Chat, I think I'm onto something. Yeah, I think I'm onto something.
A source familiar with the incident says more attacks affecting U.S. embassy workers on the island continue.
I was told that the incidents are not ongoing at this point.
This is so much more dangerous than what they're telling us. Behind closed doors, intelligence agencies learn that whatever's causing this has claimed another victim in China. The sound, its effects, and its mystery has escaped Cuba. Whatever it is.
Wait. China's really secretive. Would they really admit that? I don't buy it.
It's
China. Spreading like a disease.
Absolutely fucking no one knows what's going on. The State Department's being all hush-hush, while medical records confirm that the victims have concussion-like symptoms. There's objective evidence of brain injuries and damage to their central nervous system. Insiders are saying that there's some secret sound weapon, which, I'm sorry, sound weapon? MIT acoustic experts come forward, and they say that an acoustic device couldn't have done this. If you've heard of Havana syndrome, this is likely where you stopped paying attention. It got political and cryptic. Really.
If it gets political, it means that it's probably actually true and they're just trying to diverge it to distract you. That's my 2 cents. Yeah, if you want to be unbiased and it's an actual danger, they would absolutely subvert it so that people tune it out.
Really cryptic.
Well, you're going to see what's happening in Cuba, but they did some bad things in Cuba.
With no leading theory on the table, politicians raced to control the narrative.
I do believe Cuba is responsible. I do believe that, and it's a very unusual attack, as you know.
Before any of
Those
this
damn
happened,
Cubans.
Trump had campaigned rolling back ties with Cuba. It's part of that whole xenophobia thing he's got going on. And if you're only reading the headlines, this looks like a fake story, a manufactured excuse for Trump to fulfill his promise.
Roughly 35 diplomats reported the mysterious injuries starting in late 2016, marring U.S. diplomatic relations with Cuba for much of the Trump administration. There you go. Can't do diplomacy with them. When we do it, they're just giving us heart attack guns.
With a distracted public, what happens next is, at best, a well-intentioned scramble to find an answer, but at worst, a massive scale cover-up by U.S. intelligence agencies. But one thing is for sure, if
they're covering up VTubers giving people brain damage. I'm telling you, Cuba was just the first incident.
This is a cover-up. This is how they did it. Late 2017, a medical sociologist suggests a theory. The sound isn't real. It's mass hysteria, also known as a mass psychogenic illness. These weren't attacks, it's the placebo effect. In reverse, the theory gained some traction until 2018, when researchers at the University of Pennsylvania published their findings. These victims have all the signs of a concussion, but never had a head injury. The immaculate concussion. This baffles the scientific community. So they start calling Havana syndrome anomalous health incidents, or AHIs, with hands-on data from advanced imaging techniques.
So they had a concussion without the physical evidence of having one? No, I think I can understand that. Yeah. Microwave guns.
They're able to rule out mass psychogenic illness, environmental factors, and pre-existing conditions. The study's lead author had a new suspect: microwaves. Then a report from the National Academies of Science. The most plausible cause is directed, pulsed radio frequency energy. I don't know what a microwave weapon is, but at this point, the number of victims has jumped to over 1,000 globally. And in January of 2022, the CIA issues a report. Not microwaves, but environmental causes.
Oh yeah, I definitely trust what the CIA says. Guys, definitely not microwaves. It means that it's a microwave.
Undiagnosed medical conditions and stress.
Of course, naturally.
Stress?
Yeah.
24 cases left unexplained. 11 days later, a report commissioned by the intelligence community is released, and the report directly contradicts the CIA. This all comes.
Don't believe the CIA, chat. They're covering shit up.
Comes to a head in March of 2023, when the intelligence community releases the report of all
Never trust the feds.
a multi-year investigation, and the final answer to the Havana syndrome mystery. And what they found was nothing.
Oh!
Environmental causes, undiagnosed medical conditions, and stress. To the masses, the story ended here. Havana syndrome isn't real.
Are either of you aware of any individuals who have AHI symptoms have passed away?
Guys, it's not real because we investigated ourselves, and yeah, it's probably global warming. Yeah,
away from their ailments. I do.
I do.
Do we know how many that you're aware of? Do we need to discuss that somewhere else? Mr. Chairman, are we going to be able to move into a classified setting at some point? Or at another time?
I think that possibility will exist at a later time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The details that the intelligence community gave seemed to have referenced a study that they were involved in at the National Institute of Health. And on September 1st of 2024, the month that I'm filming in right now, it was reported that the NIH cancels Havana syndrome study, citing unethical coercion of participants. The NIH
Yeah, classic feds.
didn't say who it was. The victim said it was the CIA.
Yeah, are those victims alive? Are they okay? Are they dead?
And the CIA
I wonder.
declined to comment.
Having had authorized access to classified information on this topic, it is my view that the executive branch, particularly at the behest of and manipulation by officials within CIA, is not truthfully reporting what it knows.
But during the time these studies were taking place, Congress passed a bill, the Havana Act. It provides health benefits and compensation to victims of the sound. And the Secret Service forced Kamala Harris to delay her trip to Vietnam.
Hours-long delay of Vice President Kamala Harris's flight to Vietnam as the U.S. Embassy dealt with 2 new cases of that mystery illness known as Havana syndrome.
A possible case of Havana syndrome hit the U.S. mission in Vietnam, keeping Harris from Hanoi for several hours.
This was very unusual.
Sure sounds like a lot for a sound that the CIA and its sister intelligence agencies all agree is in their head.
On the issue of the health incidents, and we call them anomalous, I will tell you that we're looking into it, and I'm not able to share much more at this time.
I'm Jonna Mendez.
I'm judging.
Former CIA officer at Jiri Risanen asks, aren't all diplomats spies by definition? Some spies can be considered to be diplomats for cover purposes.
I'm putting down my glasses right now. I hope you know that it's like,
Turns out most of the victims work under the Pentagon or for an intelligence agency.
Oh, that's crazy. Huh.
Microwaves and other radio frequencies are known to affect the human body.
I'm hearing...
Chat, we should stick our head into a microwave. We should do that, like as an experiment.
Microwave pulse, like a click.
Pulses of microwave energy are being generated and fired at him from behind. The energy of the absorbed microwaves causes brain tissue to very slightly heat up and expand, causing a...
Expanding tissue in my brain that gives me a concussion without actually physically harming me, because the brain is made of water, and what do microwaves do? They make your water heat up. It's almost like you can give yourself a concussion by expanding your brain size physically without actually moving your brain inside of your skull. No, but microwaves don't do anything.
Pressure wave to be picked up by the hearing mechanism in the inner ear.
During the Cold War, beamed microwaves were detected at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. The beams were used to transmit an audio signal from a covert listening device hidden in the Great Seal of the U.S. Embassy. The United States was aware that this was happening.
They were trying to microwave the Russians.
A secret telegram.
The Americans. The Russians were trying to microwave the Americans. They're like, those tasty burgers in there, we want them.
From Secretary of State Henry Kissinger to the embassy in Moscow says employees need not have any concern for their health, and that confidentiality is essential at this point in order to prevent press speculation. Then an ambassador came down with mysterious symptoms. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger linked the illness of the ambassador to the microwaves, admitting we are trying to keep the thing quiet.
Well, yeah, because admitting that there's something wrong is weakness. So, like, I get it. They're covering it up because they kind of have to. Obviously. Actually.
Look at this poll from 2023. It concluded that 55% of Americans have never even heard of Havana syndrome. And
Yeah, I believe it. Because, in my honest opinion, I heard about it, but I kind of just didn't really hear about it, if that makes sense. Like, I know something happened in Cuba, and I remember people were like, oh, it's like some microwave shit. And I'm like, oh, this is like 6 years ago? Yeah, not a lot of people talked about it, and the newspapers clearly covered it up because they never, like, talked about it, like, in passing.
33% have heard about it, but only a little. I really don't blame them. With today's news landscape, big media conglomerates have a huge influence over what stories get prioritized and which ones barely make it to your feed. That's why I use a tool called Ground News. It's an app and a website that aggregates news sources from around the globe, giving you a comprehensive view of how different sources report the same story. With Ground News, you don't just get the news, you get the context. They break down each source's political bias, credibility, and ownership, so you can see where the information is coming from and how it's being shaped. They're also graciously sponsoring this part of today's video. Look at this. The Intel community's final report on Havana syndrome was covered by more than 183 outlets. If you scroll down, you can compare headlines from sources on the left, the right, and in the center. This one mentions aliens. This one says that it's unlikely, whereas this one has a definitive. They say it's not. My absolute favorite feature is this little button up here. Their blind spot page highlights stories that are being underreported or completely ignored by either side of the political spectrum. Their blind spot page shows me stories that I would otherwise be completely missing out on. So sweet. If you want to be more informed and take control over what stories you see, Ground News is offering a 40% discount
do not
off
use
their
me as a
Vantage
news
plan,
source.
which gives you unlimited access. All you have to do is use the link in the description, ground.news/CHUPPL, or you can scan the QR code. Thank you to our friends at Ground News for sponsoring this portion of today's video. We really appreciate it. Back to the story.
Everybody's
Good evening from Washington and Merry Christmas. And while much of the world was distracted today by the business of celebrating Christmas, Mikhail Gorbachev signed himself and the Soviet Union out of business without ruffles or flourishes. The Russian flag has replaced the hammer and sickle over the Kremlin.
Wow.
The technological race between the US and the USSR is one of the most famous features of the Cold War. After the fall of the Soviet Union, many of the best scientists on both sides teamed up to innovate technology together. But in a small corner of that collaboration, Americans and Russians teamed up to innovate an up-and-coming technology called pulsed power. Both military
Russians and Americans made VTubers. And they put it in Japan so that it doesn't look like they made them. I'm telling you, chat. If I get a knock on the door and you don't hear from me, they got me.
saw the promise of pulsed power, a weapon that doesn't shoot bullets,
Pulse
but energy.
this.
But when Putin rose to power, that collaboration slowed down and eventually stopped altogether. Today, this technology is used in different ways. The LRAD, or sound cannon, shoots sound to break up protests. Thor shoots microwaves to take drones out of the sky. But one of these weapons lives.
Oh, I've seen those actually. Like, yeah, they go, and then like the fucking drone falls out of the sky. It's actually really cool.
In the Horror Hall of Fame, right next to MK Ultra. It's called Medusa. If used on a human, would have a temporary incapacitation effect caused by a strong sound sensation in the human head. Medusa did this by shooting pulsed microwave radiation.
Mob X's deterrent using silent audio. Oh, that's a good acronym, actually.
It was made for crowd control, but it was discontinued in 2008 because it may have been shown to permanently damage brain tissue.
Understanding the source gene remains a real challenge. CIA analyzed what device could exist that could possibly recreate some of these symptoms. They also had a review or a scrub of all intelligence, current and former, of any foreign entity talking about or deploying any of this kind of technology, and it came up empty.
The tech exists. The weapon exists. Both American.
No. No, it doesn't exist. The CIA told me.
Americans and Russians know how to build it, and many of the victims are intelligence assets. Oh my God. This crosses a real conspiracy theorist threshold that I am just not used to.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just that, like, intelligences don't want the public to know because the public is stupid. Obviously, they don't want people to know that they have ray guns that, like, fry people's brains. Like, yeah. The government... What was that thing Wendigoon says when he's, like, you know, at the end of a video talking about, like, quote-unquote conspiracy theories? He says, if you ever think that the government wouldn't do that, yes, they would. Yes, they absolutely would. Because you'd see 100 years ago what the things they've done... really, like, it really makes you think. Absolutely they would. They would fry your brain in a second. They just choose not to.
At all. What if it is all made up? What if the CIA and its sister agencies are right? I gotta take another look at this final intelligence community report.
All right.
Whoa, what? Intel Community's Havana Syndrome report and its flawed assumptions.
Oh, here we go.
I believe that the conclusions offered in this report are inconsistent with over 5 years of evidence. The report is inconsistent with the scientific, technological, and medical evidence. Okay. Directed Energy, another conspiracy theorist. Game recognizes game. Who wrote this? James Giordano. Who is this guy?
Dr. James Giordano. I'm the Pellegrino Center.
How old is this video? 3 weeks ago? Chat, we should keep an eye out on him. Maybe is he gonna be okay?
Professor in the departments of neurology and biochemistry at Georgetown University Medical Center, where I'm also chief of the Neuroethics Studies program and chair of the sub-program of Military Medical Ethics. I also serve as the chief executive officer and executive director of the Institute for Biodefense Studies, which is a nationally funded think tank in the Washington, D.C. metro area that's devoted to looking at key areas of biodefense and biosecurity.
If he was a VTuber, I would probably listen to him.
On the world stage.
That's not a conspiracy theorist. Would you mind telling me about when you first learned about Havana Syndrome?
Yeah. So this was back in late 2016. I had been contacted by some colleagues.
Late 2016, that's when Kazuna AI debuted. I'm telling you, chat, there's something that happened. It's connected!
In the Department of State.
Dr. Giordano was one of the first people that the State Department reached out to crack the code. This is when everything was still top secret, almost a whole year before the story was leaked to the press. He also had access to the hard data.
Not only the data of these individuals and their clinical case and their reports, the objective information, certain subjective findings as well, but a host of environmental, ecological, architectural, circumstantial information, as well as the metadata of these individuals in terms of their prior medical history that could have been contributory.
If there's anyone to listen to, it's him. And according to what he saw, the CIA and other intelligence agencies got this wrong.
You have individuals.
What if the CIA told them to say all this stuff because they want him to, like, sound like he's not a Fed? Yeah, they could have. At the threat. Yeah, double conspiracy. Yeah.
Individuals who had evidence, objective evidence, that something had happened to them neurologically, then the question becomes, well, what is it that could do this? There was nothing in these individuals' medical records that would be indicative of a prior injury, insult, or disease. There was no indication that they had anything ongoing. Certainly examined the possibility of, could this be something psychogenic, sociogenic, but it didn't fit the pattern.
So where do you end up? I mean, this is a long, intense study.
The basis of the conclusory evidence in 2017 and 18, with these individuals are exposed to some form of energy. At that time, it was thought most likely to be some form of acoustic energy. We considered that there may be other forms of energy that these individuals may have been exposed to along the electromagnetic spectrum. Microwaves was certainly among them.
Chat, you heard it here first. Start throwing out your 5G.
However,
Remember that
Your
State
phone, throw
Department
it
leak,
out.
the first time that the public found out that any of this was going on? The conclusion was an acoustic device, but microwaves were also a main culprit. They ruled out microwaves because the technology wasn't possible.
It was my understanding at the time that the overall technological readiness level of scalable microwaves that would be able to retain microwave energy and yet be portable was not yet at that point that rendered it operationalizable. Interesting.
That's what they want you to think, chat. This is why I don't like conspiracy theories, in the sense that, like, I find them intriguing, but you also aren't a scientist or like a physicist, so like you're just taking it for their words, like, this technology is impossible, blah, 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 blah.
What we know is that much of the development leading to these types of pulsatile microwaves was actually initially conducted in the former Soviet Union, but then has been reinitiated and essentially reinitiated at a fairly robust pace in contemporary Russia. So to say that these devices do not exist, which is what we thought at the time, or did not exist at that level that would allow their viability and use, we were wrong.
What? A series of attacks with a microwave weapon is the latest theory of what could have sickened or distressed roughly 24 people associated with the U.S. Embassy in Cuba over the past 2 years. Like, the fact that there's a silent radio frequency that can, you know, impact you in this way is silly as fuck.
This is why I don't watch Hassan. Look, you don't know that! You're not a scientist, you dumb fuck!
I see where you're coming from, for sure.
You don't know that!
But is it?
Yeah.
I was provided
Dumb
an
bitch.
unclassified memorandum by NSA in October 2014, 2 years before Havana, that revealed the existence of intelligence information concerning a foreign adversary. Quote, with a high-powered microwave system weapon that
Let's
may
go.
have the ability to weaken, intimidate, or kill an enemy over time and without leaving evidence.
Yeah, this is a perfect weapon. This is amazing for intelligence on any side. This is great. Like, you shoot a gun, there's no bullet, there's no entry wound, there's no proof. Like, you can't like calculate who did it. If someone like is behind a wall and like you don't have a camera on it, did they just kind of zap you? Like, what do you mean? Like, of course, this is awesome.
2012 intelligence information indicated that this weapon is designed to bathe a target's living quarters in microwaves, causing numerous physical effects, including a damaged nervous system.
Yeah, shit.
The Cold
All those
War
damn
happened at a
Russians.
time when humanity was ready for a global economy. Whoever won would be able to rig the system. The fight over ideologies was really the fight for what superpower would be able to control, moderate, and make the rules for the new interconnected system.
He established the ultimate aim of communism as world revolution.
The Americans were able to write the rules, but there's one thing
propaganda.
I know about rules. Where there's rules, there's a game. You either win or you lose.
And the
The
Russians
countries and the
always
economies
lose.
that matter most
Blah,
to
blah,
the
blah.
game that the superpowers are playing are still in the Cold War. Cuba is one of those places. Allied with
It
the
is.
Russians, and for a variety of other issues, the United States put Cuba on a blacklist in 1961. In 2009, Obama said that he would lift the embargo if Cuba underwent political change.
I'm not gonna say anything, but that's pretty funny.
The invite was sent out. Join our side.
Yeah.
And in 2015,
Today, I can announce that the United States has agreed to formally reestablish diplomatic relations with the Republic of Cuba and reopen embassies in our respective countries.
the opening of the embassy in Havana was
Wow.
a recent one. And it was also a huge middle finger to
Thanks,
Russia. Today, the
Obama.
superpowers don't
This is if ultimately Obama's fault. He did that. He got the microwaves in there.
fight each other with their militaries. The advancement of nuclear weapons scares all sides. So instead, they fight on an invisible and secret battleground called the Gray Zone. Here, the world powers spy on each other, and they fight with new and unconventional technology.
Microwaves! It's that balloon!
South Carolina's coast, the so-called China spy balloon shot from the sky.
A fourth. Dude, I remember everyone was schizoing out about the balloon, man. That was insane. That was an insane week to be alive.
In the Nord Stream pipelines in the Baltic Sea.
The virus is called Stuxnet.
But there's rules to the gray zone. To avoid escalation, you need to hide everything from the public.
China has expressed its strong dissatisfaction and opposition.
Holy
I'd be pissed if someone shot down my smuggle on a balloon, even if it had nothing. Guys, I'm gonna be real. The fact that there was a whole spectacle about Chinese, like balloons and shit's like, our technology is so advanced. We have AI now. We have, like, actual robots. And, like, you really think that, like, China deeply cares about this fucking balloon? I don't know. I kind of don't buy it.
Actually did it. They blew her up.
It's a balloon. It could take further actions.
When you do strike your enemy, do it with precision and leave no trace.
This is almost impossible to figure out. This is one of the most sophisticated pieces of malware they've ever seen. Moving through the system, it hides its tracks.
The article, Dawn of the E-Bomb, outlines the...
Yeah, TikTok has already done enough damage. Anyway, like, ultimately, thank you, China. You already planted a bomb. It's called TikTok.
perfect weapon for the gray zone. It would strike with precision in an instant and leave behind no trace of where it came from. In fact, it almost certainly is already here in the form of high-power microwaves.
Yes.
It's June 16th, 2020. A police officer in Key West, Florida flashes its lights at a speeding white Mustang. The white Mustang takes off.
Whoa.
The officer doesn't know it, but inside that Mustang is the missing puzzle piece to a decade-long international conspiracy.
Friday Night Live, everybody. Ariana Greenblatt of Ariana's Restaurant and So.
Behind the wheel and talking on the phone is Michelin star chef Vitalii Kovalev. As the speedometer climbs to 110 miles an hour. Florida Highway Patrol and U.S. Border Patrol join the pursuit, and 15 miles down the road, deputies throw spike strips.
Oh my god.
In his bag, police found a device that can erase a car's GPS data. They also found various notes with bank account numbers and the amount of money in them.
Citibank discovered.
Can I just say something? Why the fuck would you have that when you're on pursuit? Why didn't you just, like, I don't know, put it through a shredder? Why do you need this? Like, if you know you're already gonna get caught, I feel like the smartest thing to do if you're a spy is to shred it or, like, I don't know, explode it, burn it, anything, rather than dragging it with you so that when you get caught, you get fucked.
Saving 75,000.
Why did you run? Let me be honest with me.
I don't know.
You don't know why you ran?
I don't know.
Vitalee Kovalev would go on to spend 80 hours in intense FBI interrogation.
I don't know,
soon
Chat.
after,
I don't
that
know.
FBI agent heard a sound.
No way!
While the authorities were going through Vitalee
Microwaved them.
Kovalev's...
Chat, I am dog whistling inadvertently because I always say, chat, you're cooked. And every time I say that, you're getting microwave beams in your brain. And that's why you're staying in the stream right now.
Bag. A camera in the cop car caught something that I can't stop thinking about. For nearly 45 minutes, Kovalev has a conversation with himself. He takes conversational pauses, almost as if he's waiting on somebody to respond. Speaking in both English and Russian, he says, yes, because this one, he drove here too, because it's necessary to. Needs 20, mistakes are unknown. 16 is a fucking lot. Yes, 5. He could hold 5. If weaker, 4. An agreement is an agreement. An agreement is an agreement. An agreement is an agreement. I didn't kill anyone. I never killed.
What if he's schizoed out? What if he's like an actual schizo?
I never, no. Here, I'll be very sad. Then I'll go to Russia. His glasses, loosely hanging over his mouth, fall to the floor. And in that moment, the conversation stops.
Yeah, that is a really weird thing to do, having the glasses over your mouth.
Did some digging, and I was able to find Vitalii Kovalev's Instagram. He really doesn't seem to be a glasses guy. Vitalii Kovalev, his car chase, and the subsequent anomalous health incident that happened to his FBI interrogator was uncovered by world-class journalists at 60 Minutes, Der Spiegel, and The Insider.
The injured include White House staff, CIA officers, FBI agents, military officers, and their families.
He forgot context. Guys, it's not true. He's a spy. He doesn't wear contacts. Yeah. He doesn't wear glasses. He was talking into him. It was a spy incident.
Christo Grozev led the investigation for The Insider. He's known for uncovering some of the biggest mysteries in geopolitics, like who poisoned Putin's opponent, Alexei Navalny. For years, he's been tracking down a top-secret Russian hit squad called GRU Unit 29155. He watches their movements and tracks their phone records.
We asked him to trace Vitalii Kovalev.
He studied in a military institute. He studied radio electronics with a particular focus on use within the military of microelectronics. He had all the technology know-how that would be required for somebody to be assisting an operation that requires high technology. And then all of a sudden, after working for 2 years in a military institute, he up and decides to become a chef.
They were able to confirm that at
Maybe he was being a VTuber behind the scenes as well.
least one member of the GRU unit was present at the Havana syndrome attacks in 2014 in Germany, in 2016 in China, and in 2021 in Georgia.
A U.S. official, their spouse, and child were hit. We have also learned of a phone call that was intercepted nearby. A man says in Russian, "Is it supposed to have blinking green lights? And should I leave it on all night?"
The totality of the evidence uncovered by our team has proven that Russia has the motive, the means, and the opportunity to have developed and used non-lethal acoustic or electromagnetic wave weapons.
What was the government's response? CIA doubled down that there is nothing to see and that it knew of and had already ruled out the same evidence. That is a blatant falsehood that has infuriated many serving members of the intelligence community because so much of the evidence to the contrary.
Chat, they also said microwaves aren't real, by the way. The whole time.
Is available to them in reports, briefings, and cable traffic. Of course, this evidence is classified.
Since 2010, the number of counterintelligence incidents began to rise, and so did Russian gray zone activities. Nikolai Patrushev, the secretary of Russia's Security Council, wrote in September 2023, and I quote, "In recent years, hundreds of employees of foreign intelligence services involved in organizing intelligence and subversive activities against our country have been neutralized."
This isn't just anyone. His name is Lieutenant Gregory Edgreen, and he was a Defense Intelligence Agency officer who was in charge of leading the investigation into Havana syndrome for the Pentagon.
I have to be careful.
If microwaves are so bad and they make people's brains explode and give them concussions, why are we allowed to have them in our homes? This is irresponsible. I think we should illegalize microwaves.
What I say here. So let me say this.
Yeah.
I know where the bodies are buried. I know the cabinets to look in, the questions to ask, and the people to subpoena. Give me 20 minutes in a skiff, and I'll convince all of you.
It had gotten to a point where I quite literally wasn't functioning as a person.
Stith, who now uses hearing aids and takes up to 20 pills a day, faces an uncertain future.
I mean, I've lost everything. My daughter, who's very athletic, went for a run. She lost all of her right side eyesight.
There's nothing in the world that's worse than being a victim that everybody doubts.
This isn't some Red Scare-esque
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Everybody fucks each other over in every country, man.
Russia bad story. All superpowers, including the United States, fight in the gray zone.
Oh yeah. 100%. I'm still convinced TikTok was implanted into the US public to dumb everyone down. It was what is it called? Like a social disruption? Like, I know, conspiracy! Ooh, Schmuggandana, you watched people back in like 2020? Or 2021? Oh my gosh! I can't believe this. You're such a conspiracy bitch. No, TikTok was made and put into the US public's hands to disrupt the social cycle and turn everybody fucking stupid.
Whether or not Havana syndrome is a peek behind the curtain into the gray zone doesn't really matter. The CIA allegedly lied to the public. They lied to Congress and they lied to the president. And if that's true, they did it to publicly gaslight and hide the injuries of many Americans.
And at the very, very least recognize that something happened to these individuals and perhaps others. Ongoing discussion, if not debate and controversy as to who done it and what it is that they done, should not be a factor that impedes these individuals from receiving the care they need, because something's wrong with them. They're in the hurt locker.
I believe that we have enough evidence to wipe the record clean. And I think we have an obligation to look at Havana syndrome with fresh eyes.
I mean, these were comprehensive neurovestibular examinations, the aberrations of which could not be faked. So something happened to these individuals. Something physical happened to these individuals.
We need to conduct new investigations with appropriate oversight.
It's not gonna happen. The government's gonna investigate themselves and be like, oh shit, this we already had an investigation? Oh shit, oh yeah, we found there's nothing wrong. We investigated ourselves, we have found nothing, sorry, go fuck yourself. What do you mean? Who's gonna investigate the government? God?
News media missed the story on that CIA assessment. They said they looked at more than 1,000 cases and they concluded the vast majority could be explained otherwise. But there are at least 24 cases that even the CIA acknowledges they can't explain away.
We need to erase that 24 number and revisit the thousands of Americans that allegedly the CIA just wrote off.
That to me.
Guys, lest we forget, they ruled JFK was not. They did not admit that JFK was, killed by their own until 60 years later. And they were like, oh, yeah, you guys, we got some papers over here. They're declassified now. Yeah, we did it, by the way. Yeah, 60 years later. Most people are already dead. Who cares?
Me is the story that should have been in the New York Times and the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, that there are 24 cases the CIA can't even explain away.
When Dr. Galloway told me that I couldn't make my eyes work together, it was the first time that someone had said, that this is sort of the smoking gun. This is your proof.
Havana syndrome, the immaculate concussion, AHIs, whatever you want to call it, it's real. And regardless of who doesn't want you to know about it, now you do.
Oopsie doopsie. Sorry, we gave our citizens brain damage. You think the government doesn't have microwave guns?
If you want to learn more, we've attached the whistleblower complaints and other declassified documents down below. But do be warned, some of them can be a tough read.
What would you say Havana syndrome is?
So what I think it is there's some magical electronic-y blaster thing that gave people headaches.
It's a stress-based or psychosomatic issue that doesn't actually have any cause. Like, people just experience it because other people have experienced it and people are impressionable.
They can't prove that it's even real or it's really happening. And they're like, is it—
Well, again, it's really mean to say like, oh, these YouTubers are so uneducated. I didn't even really know about it until, you know, this video, and this video had a lot of, you know, interesting points.
Just like a giant placebo thing happening, and it's just like scientifically, it's like, what the hell is going on here?
A lot of these people are working in high stress environments, working long hours. They're probably not getting a lot of sleep. I mean, even the intelligence agencies, a whole bunch of them came out and said, we do not believe that the majority of these cases are due to some sort of foreign adversary.
Yeah, because if you admit it was a foreign adversary, it makes you look weak. That's like military 101. Like me, I'm not like a military history buff. You literally say that to save face because it makes you look less weak. Because if you admit the Russians were blasting people with microwaves, it'll make people fucking freak out. And it makes you look dumb and stupid and weak.
I started to hear people who were just kind of making these basic attacks on the idea of this technology existing. And so that sort of muddied it, and that kind of dulled my interest in it too a little bit. I ended up not following it after that because it seemed like, okay, maybe this isn't a thing.
Okay.
They're not low level, but not senior. There is someone who has had access to this information through the federal government. This person is not a victim, but they have participated in many of the investigations on the inside. Okay.
I want to take a second and say thank you. Thank you not only for watching this video, but for all the support you've given us over the past year. It's really, like, really meant the world. And we've got some exciting news. We just launched a Patreon. If you like the work that we're doing and you're in a place where you want to support us, I'd love to see you over there. We're hoping that Patreon will enable us to work on more stories at a time and, frankly, go deeper down each rabbit hole. We've got a variety of tiers. They each come with different benefits, but there's one that I'm particularly excited about: the Patreon Discord, a place finally for us and our team to hang out
in Discord. Let's go.
So if you want to support the work that we're doing in a new way, the link is down below. Patreon.com/CHUPPL. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.
Paywall your Discord? No! Guys, that was a good video. I like that a lot. I like yapping. I like conspiracy theories, as they call them, Lamau, even though it's not really a conspiracy theory. Anyway, sorry, the government's at my door. I'm going to die soon. Chat, if I blink 3 times, I'm gonna die. That was really fun, though. I like that. That was a good video.